There is little doubt that at least so far here in 2025, the word of the year is tariffs. Here on Wall Street, everyone is trying to figure out the impact on the financial markets. But how are tariffs expected to impact your next shopping trip or future shopping trips as we move forward in the calendar year? We now want to bring back our friend and shopping expert, Trae Bodge, here to help us answer all of those questions. Trae, it is great to have you. A huge day here for you and I to be having this conversation. Tariffs, undoubtedly, they continue to dominate the headlines. That's no surprise. That's been the case for over a month. What are you seeing, Trae, in terms of how tariffs are impacting consumers at the register right now?
Sure. So consumers haven't felt a real pinch quite yet unless they've been buying perishables in recent days. You know, the perishables that have been imported, we've seen a little bit of price hikes there. But a lot of the items that we buy throughout the year have not been impacted yet because the items that we're buying are on the shelves already. They're not being shipped in. So we do have some changes to expect coming up. You know, obviously we're having great news between the US and China right now. So it's less, 145% tariff and more like a 10% tariff. And so I think that we will see higher prices in general, but they won't be catastrophically high.
Are there particular product categories that are getting hit harder than others in shopping?
So it really depends on where items are imported from. Obviously, we're seeing a 10% baseline tariff. However, some of the countries, if they're at a deficit with us, we might see higher tariffs. And so it's hard to say, but what I'm seeing are predictions of price hikes pretty much across the board. So anything from imported groceries and flowers all the way to electronics and cars.
How should shoppers adjust their expectations heading into the summer? It's one thing for oil prices to maybe impact how far you decide to drive with your family in a car or to plan your trips, but shopping expectations is going to be a big one. We're not quite yet at back to school season, but it's going to be here before you know it.
Yeah, and that's a great question too, because when it comes to shopping for back to school, for example, we might see some empty shelves, right? Like when all of this began a couple months ago, retailers backed up on their orders, and so we weren't seeing those ships coming into our ports as plentifully, as if that's a word, as we usually see. And so we might see some empty shelves. Retailers might be pulling back on the depth of discounts that we see, say, for Memorial Day, for example. So I would really suggest that consumers get into some smart shopping habits, like shopping at lower cost retailers, considering buying like the Sidekick from Coupon Cabin. That way they'll actively be looking for maybe cash back offers for you, coupons. That's a great habit to get into. And then lastly, what we're also seeing at car manufacturers and retailers, and then also other retailers, are kind of these pre-tariff or inflation-proof pricing. Look for that. Like, for example, HP, they have a great all-in plan for printing. It starts at $6.99 a month. That includes a printer and then ink and customer service. They are committing to keeping that price as low as $6.99 and up a month as long as you're with them. Expect that from other service providers as well. If they will commit to staying to that price that you've agreed on at the very beginning, then you know that you're not going to be riding a crazy price roller coaster with those service providers.
I wonder, are there specific types of shortages that consumers could experience that you're expecting?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple categories that I'm worried about are back to school clothing and also tech items. And then I'm hearing a lot about toys right now. And I'm hoping that since we just have seen this big improvement in communication with China, that maybe the toy retailers can kind of catch up and we won't have empty shelves at the toy retailers. So obviously the news could have changed in the last couple of days. But those are my two categories that I'm just a little bit worried about, or is back to school and then also holiday specifically as it pertains to toys.
You mentioned tech earlier. In the world of tech, there's a big conversation going on right now about a so-called forced upgrade cycle. Do the expected pressure from tariffs force people to get an updated device now sooner than they would otherwise because they're worried about those prices going up? Is there anything like that in the world for shoppers who might be looking to make a bigger purchase soon, who might be wondering, Should I make it sooner than I would have otherwise, or is it okay to wait?
Yeah, so this is an important question, right? There's this kind of scarcity mindset that we're falling into right now, and I think it's valid. So if there's a bigger ticket item, so for example, a smartphone or an appliance that you were kind of contemplating buying later, you might want to start looking around now. And there are good things that can be happening in that space. Like for example, Mint Mobile, they have deals on phones right now, and then they also have discounted service being locked in for that year, for example. So that's maybe one thing I would look at, is trying to find that good price plus that service layered in. But really in general, like if you, for example, if your washer and dryer are kind of on their last legs and you were like, oh, maybe I'll do that over Black Friday, you might want to start looking now. So I would look at Memorial Day sales. I would look at the sales around Amazon Prime Day and Black Friday and July sales to kind of get ahead of this potential price hike that we will see in many of these categories.
Are you seeing a boost in buy now, pay later services as a result of the general tariff impact and related uncertainty?
Yeah, so I think that's something that we can expect. We are starting to see consumers feeling a little bit more comfortable buying. We saw a pretty significant pullback a couple months ago, and we're starting to see people dipping back in, maybe hopefully not panic buying, obviously. But that would be my suggestion, is to look for those more favorable ways to pay, like a 0% financing offer, for example, buy now, pay later. Because the thing that sometimes people miss is like, oh, you may be buying a computer right now that you were planning on buying later, but how does that affect your monthly budget? Maybe you don't have the budget to pay for that laptop in full right now, so you buy it and then it drags across many months on your credit card, and then you haven't saved any money at all because you're paying interest. So look for those ways that you can spread those payments out so it's less impactful on your immediate budget, and that way you're saving and then saving on top of that as well.
And I'm glad you mentioned interest, because all this notwithstanding, we are still, relatively speaking, in a pretty high interest rate environment. We've had the federal funds rate come down a couple times, just a little bit, but we're still dealing near the highs going back to the last few decades. Trae, while I have you, is there anything in the world of retail right now that gives you hope? Any reason for optimism right now?
Well, I am feeling optimistic about what's happening with China. That put me in a very good mood when I heard that. So that's the thing I'm happy about right now. I mean, I've been kind of just hoping that we were going to hear like a just kidding and this whole thing was going to go away. Obviously, that's just me, having a pipe dream. But I do think this is favorable with China. I mean, that's a very big change from 145 to 10. And so I'm feeling pretty good right now. I mean, but remember, 10% is significant. We are going to see higher prices, and that bothers me across the board, especially for consumers on such a tight budget as so many people are, and debt is on the rise. And so I just hope that people don't panic, they take a breath, maybe look for some good prices now, but don't buy what you can't afford.
I'm about out of time. Trae, where can people find more of your work?
You can find me at Trae on Instagram and TrueTrae.com. I share savings tips, great products that I've tested, all of that good stuff across those two platforms.
Shopping expert Trae Bodge, the ultimate voice I most want to talk to, especially on a day like today. Very grateful for your time. Nice to have you back.
Thanks, JD.